Good morning, everyone. It's actually great being here. It actually is an honor for us to be here today and to join you at this 8th AM forum. I think one of the opening speakers put it very well. After so many years of COVID, it's wonderful to be together. It's nice to have a full room of people again. And I'd like to start with thanking the organizers of the AM Forum. Thank you very much for your invitation to this renowned forum. It is my pleasure to offer the welcoming remarks on this panel. It is titled "The Global Battle for 3D Printing Dominance," which is a very provocative obviously a very provocative title, intentionally provocative. But it's an important topic. And why is it important? In my opinion, it's vitally important that we come together to discuss how we ensure that our companies have the best, most reliable foundation for doing business. According to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, U.S. goods and services trade with the European Union amounted to roughly $1.3 trillion in 2022, which has actually gone up in 2023. The official numbers haven't come out yet, but I can tell you it's gone up. So it is no exaggeration to say that the U.S.-European trading partnership is the largest trading entity in the history of this planet. In addition, according to the recent study by the European Patent Office, Europe and the United States are the global leaders in international patent families filed for additive manufacturing or 3D printing. According to this office, they accounted for almost 3/4 of all patents in additive manufacturing between 2001 and 2020. The United States contributed a little less than 40%. The European Union and partners, roughly about 33% of these international patents. And more specifically, most of the European countries, among the European countries, Germany contributed most of the additive manufacturing patents. However, trade is not a one-way street. It needs partners to do business, especially with the additive manufacturing industry still developing. And with it still developing, collaboration is particularly important. And that's why events such as today's event is so important. As a representative of the U.S. Department of Commerce in Germany, I highly value the trade collaboration with our German and European partners. Fair competition, and this is what we all want it to be, needs mutually agreed upon standards. Standards are important, I would say even crucial for trade. They are not only essential for fair trade, they ensure the level playing field where the best technology can succeed. In fact, this was the actual incentive for us to launch the Additive Manufacturing Standards Forum at Formnext back in 2018, which was kindly supported by this panel's moderator, Professor Seidel. At that time, Professor Seidel was the convener of the ISO TC 261 working group. And the Standards Forum has now become an essential part of Formnext due to its many international supporters, including many international companies and standards institutions from Europe and specifically here in Germany. It is a pleasure to see that this international collaboration has proven so successful and that the 7th Additive Manufacturing Standards Forum will take place at Formnext again this November. The still emerging additive manufacturing sector is offering us many opportunities to further expand our transatlantic ties. In May 2022, the U.S. industry celebrated the launch of Additive Manufacturing Forward, AM Forward, a voluntary compact between large manufacturers and their smaller U.S.-based suppliers. Leading manufacturers are part of this important initiative, and they are supporting their U.S.-based suppliers' adoption of new additive capabilities. And this, in turn, will help transform shop floors across the United States and beyond. The productivity and resilience of our local manufacturers on both sides of the Atlantic are important for our economies. Keeping pace with technological change should not be the capability of a few or an over-the-horizon goal out of reach of most of our manufacturing base. It is essential that all companies have access to new technologies like additive manufacturing, if they so choose. It will contribute to more secure, resilient supply chains, which are still a topic even after the pandemic. Astra America, is the convener of parties and the implementer of AM Forum Initiative, and it's great to have Jason here, Jason Gorey here from Astra America. He's the executive director, and he'll be on this panel today together with representatives from the European Union, the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, as well as from representatives from companies of BASF and EOS. Only together can we ensure fair competition. It is up to us to offer the appropriate framework for our companies to collaborate. Its use goes across industries and its applications are manyfold. We have even used it, as we've stated earlier, in space. As a child of the space age, I find that fascinating. Let us take advantage of furthering the additive manufacturing industry together and allow it to shape our futures for the better. And I wish you a great and fruitful discussion and look forward to expanding the collaboration with you. Once again, welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All up to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you very much, Minister Councillor Tchaikovsky, for your inspiring welcome remarks and for being with us today. It is a great honor for us. You pointed out that additive manufacturing can offer added value across industry boundaries, and although the panel is entitled Global Battle, you showed us in a tangible way that cooperation and collaboration can be a powerful success factor for all of us. So thank you again, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for getting up so early to join us in this panel, and there is no panel, so please, panelists, come to the stage and give them a warm applause. So, it's a great pleasure to be on this panel together with the colleagues mentioned also here on the slide. So, let me start with Jason Gorey. He's the Executive Director of Astra America. And you might not know Astra America, but you sure have heard of AM Forward Initiative from President Biden, US. And it's a non-profit research institute and think tank, and I would say you're kind of the masterminds of this initiative, so it's a great honor to have you here. Next we have Mehdi Hocin from the European Commission. He's head of the machinery unit, machinery and equipment for the European Commission, and he holds a crucial role also for, let me call it, setting the rules for the AM machinery, and also his team members are a vital part of the Trade and Technology Council between the United States of America and the European Union. Next we have Marie Lange, one of Germany's most successful mid-sized enterprises, Chief Executive Officer, and probably world renowned for the machinery, laser-based machines, and AM systems. Next to Marie, we have Martin Bach, CEO of BAS Forward AM. So it's not AM Forward, it's Forward AM, just to confuse us, right, Martin? Solution and materials provider across manufacturers. And on your very right-hand side, I guess, it's Werner Lohscheider from the German Ministry, Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate. He's heading the division IVB4, construction industry, lightweight construction, new materials, and resource efficiency. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you all. Pleasure. So I would like to kick off this panel with a spotlight on AM Forward Initiative. We have the core expert here. And it would be great, Jason, can you give us a brief overview on this initiative and maybe even your interim conclusion on the first 2 years that it has been in place? And while he's giving us these brief insights, please submit your questions because these are brave people. So please submit any question that is of interest for you and we will take care of that. Jason.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me. As you mentioned, so Astra America is the nonprofit that leads the AM Forward Initiative. It's a compact between the Biden-Harris administration and 7 very large U.S. companies, so Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop, Lockheed, those types of companies, aerospace and energy. And it was announced by President Biden in Cincinnati about 2 years ago now, brought together the C-suites of these various companies. And basically it was a commitment on the part of these companies to individually and collectively support adoption of 3D printing solutions within their supply chain. So their sub-tiers down to the 3, 4, 5 sub-tier level. ASTRO's role is really the neutral third-party actor, enabling and encouraging cooperation between these companies. That first announcement and meeting that we had was established we would focus on 3 areas specifically. So workforce development, pretty self-evident, I think. Qualification, innovation around qualification specifically. So right now, qualifying a defense part takes roughly 24 months if it's additively created. How do you drastically reduce that timeline? And how do you get these various companies who are doing the qualification process within their supply chain to work together to accept at least a large portion of each other's qualification process? And then finally, access to capital. So figuring out how these smaller companies within their supply chains can actually get the money to implement additive manufacturing on their floor. In terms of an update, we've done many programs around the workforce development, mostly with universities and technology schools. I think that's been very successful. On the qualification aspect, we have 3 of the companies around airframes currently working together through ASTRO America, sharing their very proprietary qualification process with us so that we can look and establish the common aspects that they can potentially all accept. And then finally, on the access to capital piece, and the big announcement that we've just had in January at the White House, is we've established a private equity fund, and it will be specifically dedicated to those small manufacturers that are looking to either implement additive capabilities or expand their additive capabilities, specifically within the defense and aerospace supply chains. So we're currently in the process of recruiting strategic investors, so more companies. We expect our first close to be in the beginning of this summer, and then we'll have a second close for more of the traditional financial investors within a private equity fund.
Thank you. Very good progress. What's your view from a German industry perspective on this initiative?
Yes, I think it's, every initiative is good to boost innovation, and innovation is part for society to create prosperity and work. So I think that's a great idea, and it's a little bit similar to what we do in our ministry in the field of lightweighting, because networking is key for cross-cutting technology as lightweighting is. So it is our goal to bring together the different stakeholders in that this industry consisting of different technologies, different materials, different manufacturing sectors, and so that is key that they cooperate, that they network, and believe me, that is not a self-fulfilling story. That is work that has to be done to bring those different stakeholders together, to motivate them to cooperate, and we have done a little bit of that work under the roof of our lightweighting initiative. And I think that's a good way to boost as well lightweighting and additive manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. It's always good to look into other fields where you've already accomplished a lot, particularly lightweight. Maybe Marie and Martin, you're both representing mid-sized enterprises. What is your view on this initiative?
So in general, of course, in the US, we really feel that it's great for us from a potential to collaborate and really accelerate adoption, and having really funds that are focusing on that, because we see in the US a very clear strategy to drive that and to make sure that more and more users are using this technology and leveraging the potential. On the other side, we see also in China that there's a lot of investment in actually equipment suppliers. And so we can leverage that as a global company, but definitely I think there's a strong need in Europe to really also get a very clear focus on Are we also focusing more on accelerating adoption together here? And I know there are some initiatives, but there's more. There may be also even industries like space, for example, where we need to look very carefully also what other regions are doing, especially in these unpeaceful times. So I think, I like it that there are these best practices, and I would also wish for more activity there on the European side. I know there's a lot happening, but I think we can be still more structured and powerful.
Thank you. Martin, what is your view?
Yeah, I look at this from two perspectives.
Yeah.
First one is that my professional history, I spent the first 20 years of my professional life in manufacturing business, automotive tier 1. So I know these businesses from inside, and those are very lean companies. Very lean. There is no room for experimentation. It's process. So they need help. The second one is Forward AM being the largest global, not only materials, but also solution provider. We are usually approached from two sides, from either machine makers that come with processes, or from the industry, because we find generative design and simulation solutions with our materials. So we see all of these processes to develop one value-adding application at the end. But we also see them failing. Failing because of, and this is the understanding at the end, making a lessons learned means that a lot of things need to be put in place in order to make this successful. It's not only the machine. It's not only the people who are talented. It's not only the material that needs to be well selected. It's not only the design that needs to work. It needs to be all of this at the same time.
Right.
And this is a huge effort for adoption, and this is where our industry needs help. And I see this as a main factor main reason for the slow adoption that we see. Technology is there. Many times we have capable solutions already, but they are not exploited because one of these factors is missing in the company. It's not only the technology, it's also the organizational development. That's why I see this program is approaching at the right angles. So you put a lot of things together at the same time. You say workforce development, you go to schools, you go to universities and teach. At the same time, you help companies to adopt, and at the same time, now you start raising a fund for it, because sometimes it's just the money that's needed. And it is, as I see it, I have a global view on the business. It is very urgent that we drive this forward, and there's no time to lose.
That's definitely true, yeah. And you mentioned a few important aspects, such as the complex process chain. We heard a lot about collaboration, and I can see a value in standards for collaboration and for taking a little bit out of the complexity, taking the complexity out of that complex process chain. So what is your view on the standard side, Mehdi?
Yes, I think it's, first I would like to say that it's indeed very important not to have maybe a scattered approach and really to look at all the aspects. And if we look at the standards, and I will mention also, of course, the European example, for machinery, we have more than 850 standards published in the official journal. It means that the standards that are published in the official journal, they give also legal certainty to the manufacturer that he complies with the EU law. For additive manufacturing, there are currently none. So it's crucial that we also focus on the development of standards. And I can, of course, only speak to the EU, but we are also working with our US counterpart. You mentioned the TTC. To have a more coordinated approach is very important because it will also give more legal certainty to the company that they comply with the EU law. And this is one thing that we are focusing on. You know, we have a new machinery regulation that will enter into application in 2027. And we are now addressing a standardization request to the European Standardization Organization, and one of these requests will include a specific item with regard to additive manufacturing, because this is key also to clarify the things for industry. I would like also to say concerning what is done with the US. So we have, of course, a collaboration. This was mentioned in the introduction by Bill at the level of ISO, and I think it's good that we continue. We had also engaged, in the context of the TTC. Of course, we have different systems, so it may take more time than initially expected, but it is key that we develop also a strong workflow on standard. And, the Commission is not drafting the standard. So I'm really happy that we have all the additive manufacturing today, because it will be important to have the input of industry in the context of the standardization work. So we cannot do that alone. We really need the support of industry at all levels, so that you take an active part to this standardization work.
Sure, and I mean, we have for additive manufacturing being a niche industry, we have great prerequisites for international standards that go beyond European borders, because we have this unique collaboration between ISO's Technical Committee 261 that I had the honor to chair for 5 years, and ASTM F42. So we have these double logo standards reflecting highest international consensus once they are published. I see a lot more activity in the Q&A, and I finally managed to get this on this tiny tablet here as well. But I only see 5 likes, and these are maybe 200 people, so get another coffee and type in more questions, like them or dislike them, so that we get an idea on what you really want to have discussed here. We have 31 minutes left, so let me switch to your questions. The top ranked question at this point in time is, do we have enough political support in Europe, or will AM end up like the solar panel industry in Germany? Oh yeah, solar panel industry. Applause for the solar industry. Yeah, that's always welcome. Marie.
I emphasized it before, so definitely we don't have enough support right now. There's a super clear strategy in the US. There's super clear strategy in China specifically. There are, of course, also different other things going on in the Asian area for itself. And if government really wants to advance additive manufacturing and make sure that adoption is increasing, then they should also do more on the European side, because what we're seeing is that we're benefiting a lot in the US from these kind of programs, and we're really lagging behind, especially in Germany, but I would say across Europe in that. So it needs focus, and it needs really big, solid programs, and not only a few drops of water.
I saw Werner raising his hand right away.
Yes, thank you. I want to make 2 remarks. The first one, I mentioned already the networking we organized in Germany under the lightweighting initiative of our ministry. That is one effective part to support lightweighting as well, additive manufacturing. And the same thing, we are now on the way to organize on the European level. It's called the European Lightweighting Network. There we want to bring together the different member states and the responsible colleagues for lightweighting, to make lightweighting and additive manufacturing to a topic in Europe on the political level. And from my perspective, yes, indeed, there is some space to improve it, and I guess it's good that the EU Commission offer funding for lightweighting, but it would be better if it would be a political topic, and that's what we want to push with that initiative. And at the end of the day, we want to establish a European lightweighting initiative in Germany. And that's the second remark. I think we do a lot for lightweighting and for AM. We have established a technology transfer program for lightweighting, and with that program We fund more than 220 projects, 1,000 companies, SMEs, startups, and so we can offer 500 million euros. 500 million euros. And part of that goes into AM, 55 million. So more than 170 companies benefit from that technology transfer program for lightweighting. So I think in Germany we have delivered in that field.
That's definitely a big contribution to the progress in additive manufacturing, but maybe it's also inspiring to hear that sound concept for lightweight. So maybe what we heard from Marie and what we will hear from Martin in a second, maybe we can set up a strategy for additive manufacturing based on what we experienced with lightweight, and maybe Jason gives us also some ideas from what we see in the US so that we can get best practices of an already successful program.
Yes, that's a good idea, but additive manufacturing is part of the lightweighting strategy of the government. So Stefanie Brickwede is pushing additive manufacturing in that initiative. She is part of our organization, so you are represented very well in that initiative.
Martin?
Yeah, I see also with Marie that we do not have enough in Europe. I used to compare Europe and China, especially in the US, in two ways. So while in China, young companies have a pretty fast scaling because they always have 1 or 2 digits more of products that are being produced. They can scale faster and grow faster in their business. In the US, we have a different market for funding and financing, so companies have 1 or 2 digits more in money that they can raise. While in Europe, we are just squeezed in the middle. We did invent a good part of this technology, but usually companies have a hard time growing and making business because of slow adoption, and on the other hand, have an extremely difficult funding situation. And this is indeed risking us losing this industry right now, at this moment, because funding at this moment for startups is extremely difficult. Why is this a problem? The problem is that the industry is going through an unprecedented number of changes at the same time. We live this famous VUCA world, and our manufacturing industry, which is the stabilizing factor for Germany and for Europe, needs to change fast, and additive manufacturing stands for making change fast. So when we lose this industry, we lose an enabling technology, which is, in my opinion, key to mastering this VUCA world for the next successful industrial situation in Germany. And so it really matters. Maybe there are not that many number of people involved in additive manufacturing directly today, but losing that technology is a key impact for our industry. So it's a big threat for Europe.
I see. I cannot agree more. I mean, it's a small industry, but it offers high-value jobs. That's what also was written in the White House public release on the AM Forward initiative. So, especially as a rather small country within the European Union, or not a small country within the European Union, but not as big as the United States, it could be also a good opportunity for us to stick in this, let me call it niche technology again. But we heard about a more focused strategy that might be needed, not only for the federal government, but also for the European Union. So maybe, do you know of any plans that also corresponds with a question here, highly ranked on R&D programs, like the Horizon programs? Is there something on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm not going to be Santa Claus, so I cannot promise more funding for Horizon program. You know, these are the EU fund for research. It's true that there is already a lot that is being done. I think we are talking about at least in the magnitude of hundreds of millions. More could be done, surely, but what we also see, and I think this was also mentioned, that we have the problem of scaling up and making sure that the results of the research, they materialize, you know, into real added value for industry. We are trying also in the context of what we call the new standardization strategy to have a kind of booster to make sure that the result of research, they materialize sooner in standards. So the EU will provide for advice for the research, try to establish a better link between the research community and the standardization community so that we can materialize the benefit of research faster. This is what we intend to do. With regard to the adoption, what I would like to say is that there is also what we are trying to do with the regulatory framework is to make it fit also for additive manufacturing. There was a lot of debate recently with the construction product regulation, the new one that has been adopted, and how to make sure that additive manufacturing fits in and, you know, as a better treatment, a specific treatment, because it's also big output. So, and I think that in the end, what I understand is that the final outcome is considered satisfactory. We are also looking, for example, at mass production for spare parts, like we have the right to repair directive, where for the first time we recognize that it's fine to use additive manufacturing also to provide consumer with spare parts made with additive manufacturing. So we are trying also to adapt not only the machinery, which is, you know, the base regulation, but also all the others. And there is also, of course, an aspect that I think it was also mentioned in the introduction about defense application. You know, 2 weeks ago we had the adoption of the European Defense Industry Strategy, and we all know, unfortunately, that additive manufacturing is playing a very important role, you know, for defense, and we see that with Ukraine, and we will see that more and more. And the EU, as you know, is already promoting the use of additive manufacturing in the field of defense, and the colleague from the European Defense Agency, they have, since now, I think it will be the 2nd or the 3rd edition, what we call the additive manufacturing village, where you have the EU industry, but also our like-minded partner from the US, from the UK, that are also taking care. So I think it's also important. We have, of course, limited resource, but I think it's also important to team up for the EU with the like-minded partner in order to make sure that we also finance, I would say, the research, but also the application and the
regulatory side. So I understand the European Commission tries to support it on multiple fronts, so to say. First, the regulations for the machinery, but also for the adoption in spare part industry applications that are regulated and all that. This is something you take care of, path 1, so to say. Path 2 is the Horizon programs that address additive manufacturing, at least in the 3rd or 2nd row, quite straight. And the 3rd path that I understood is the defense developments. So the European Defense Agency, the EDA, is quite active, became very active. So you can foresee that also for the civil applications, there might be some chances out of an increase in defense activities. So that's good news, so to say, and might add to a comprehensive strategy that pushes us forward between Brussels, Berlin, and the more local cities like Munich and others. Maybe, Jason, we have some questions that I would like to redirect to you. We see here a question. How did you manage to simplify adoption of AM in the USA with the corporations like Boeing, Lockheed, etc.? This implies that, or actually it says that you managed to simplify the adoption. Is that even correct?
I don't know if we've necessarily simplified it, but I would say in the defense and aerospace sector in general, the supply chains are pretty well established with even as you go down into the lower supply chain tiers, you have qualified defense suppliers, so companies who are already creating qualified parts and are therefore favored companies for additional parts that will be created. And because that's the case and because that relationship already exists, it's, I think, a little bit easier in defense and aerospace so the companies that were mentioned, to enable adoption, because there's that relationship between even the lower tiers and the actual lead system integrators.
Okay, so the need was the base for that simplification. But we saw the numbers Matthias provided us earlier this morning, and I would like to link that to the question, what is the main factor stopping additive from making breakthrough into serial production? And you, as a representative from the US, we saw that you had quite good growth numbers this year. It could be better, and the numbers, even for the US, they do not reflect a breakthrough, right? So
Certainly not.
What is the main factor? Just one. The question is only one factor, right? Only main
The
factor.
main factor.
Okay, so
I'll give you two.
Okay.
I think one of them is probably generally accepted, and the other one's probably my own thought. I think innovation around qualification. As I mentioned, in the defense space right now, 24 months to qualify a part coming off an additive machine. That's an enormous barrier to entry for additive as a technology. So if you can, the more you can get that the timeline down, the more adoption you're going to see. And there are tremendous opportunities there. I mean, with additive, you can actually do the in situ monitoring that you can't do through traditional manufacturing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And as we progress that and as that becomes more accepted, I think you're going to see a snowball effect. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, I think, as additive becomes more accepted and you see more design for additive in new systems, I think that's really going to be the key to seeing that serial production. And part of that is really, I think, an underserved aspect of the workforce development has been training people to design for additive.
Yeah, but I cannot agree more. The qualification issues, it's not only time, I heard it's also money, right? It's not so cheap. If you
Millions of dollars.
change a little bit, it might get expensive. And we saw also in the charts Matthias shared with us that it's predominantly the regulated industries that seem to be the drivers for our growth. So one main factor, we have 4 other panelists. If you want to mention one main factor each, that would be great. Who wants to start? Martin raises his hand. One main factor?
Yeah, this is something that we usually see in larger projects. And I would say, the biggest obstacle or the biggest factor to drive that is open collaboration among the participants to align this use case into a value-adding application.
Okay.
Because usually the complexity of understanding the interdependency of the design with the material properties, with the processing not only design process but also manufacturing, post-processing, workflow, quality documentation, and so on. This interdependencies to be managed requires an open collaboration among the peers. Usually in established industries, you have people like integrators to do that, and in additive manufacturing, we don't have that. So we need to be our own integrators together for the sake of having a stable serial production application.
So we have easing qualification, we have collaboration, and I see one person not really submitting a question. It's Dirk Simon. He's just agreeing, right? So he says that why it needs 3D dominance by region. I think that was just the title of the panel. We all agree that it needs collaboration. So yeah, you have support from the audience. Marie.
Yes, and I just would also add this entire topic of industrialization. So reliable systems, reliable quality, 24/7, to really be a relevant production technology, because that's what we in the end all compete with, right? We need to look at conventional technologies and see where can we not only be better when we look for design capabilities, but really making sure that it's a stable and resilient technology. So I would add that to the list.
I assume for the next generation, because the current generation is quite stable, I would assume, right? And reliable.
Ask some of the customers. I think it depends on whom you talk to. But I still believe, and I think this is like for every single supplier here in AM, there is still room to improve. We believe that EOS, we are really leading that. But you emphasized China. You emphasized also that there is a global battle. So definitely this is, I think, what we all need to figure out together.
Yeah, but I'm quite convinced about that we have a current system generation out there that is quite reliable. It can be quite reliable if you use them in a proper way, but it is too expensive. It's too much cost per part. So the next generation that offers less cost per part, it needs to be reliable as well, and then we can probably skyrocket. That would be probably the term we used 8 years ago when we kicked off this AM Forum series, skyrocketing and hockey stick. That was words often used a few years ago. Main factor from the European Commission?
Of course, I think the industry is better placed than us to say what is a limiting factor. What I would like also to add is that we are also trying from our end. I mentioned standardization because it will also bring legal certainty, and at least the user will be sure that what they are using is in line with the law. But what we're also trying to do is also to make sure that the component, the input that you use, we have also security of supply, because what is important for us is that AM can provide with more resilience of the supply chain, and we have to make sure that all the inputs, and I'm thinking in particular about the metals, they are also available in sufficient quantity. And that's why also we had the adoption of the Critical Raw Material Act, and in this act we also identify additive manufacturing as a key technology, and of course several metals are important in this context.
Right.
Voilà. Also, what we try to do, we realize that there is this shortage on skills. This is not, unfortunately, limited to additive manufacturing, but this is also another matter we are trying to look at, how to make sure that young people also embrace careers in engineering and in domains such as also additive.
I will head back to Munich tomorrow morning and give the lecture on additive manufacturing. That's the first thing tomorrow.
That's good.
So we have resilience in the supply chain, so that we have all the material we need for the machineries, for the material. What is the next aspect and the last aspect?
Yes, it might be interesting for the companies to hear that the Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action offers the opportunity for you to participate in a program which improves collaboration, especially with the US. It's called Market Entry Program, and so especially small and medium-sized companies have the opportunity to build up a collaboration with companies in US. That's very popular and a good instrument. Another opportunity we do offer is a common booth in the field of lightweighting, additive manufacturing, so that you can get part with your company that booth, for example, in US at the CEMEX. So those are two very interesting, from my point of view, interesting instruments to support you in your work.
Definitely. Before I try to summarize the 5 main influencing factors, please be motivated to submit more questions and to like them. 6 minutes left. So we have the funding incentives, so to say, for collaboration, main influencing factor from you. Then we have the collaboration. We have resilience in the machine systems, so that we can really rely on them and we can count on them 24/7 if we want to. Then we had the ease in qualification mechanisms across various industries being the main influencing factor here, trying to convince the authorities to accept that ease in the routines they are used to. And the programs you mentioned earlier as the 5th factor. Great. So let me check what is the top ranked question. We go for that one. What role does software play in the advancement of 3D printing technologies, and how can companies leverage it to gain a competitive edge? Software.
From our perspective, it's playing a huge huge role in differentiating. We ourselves invested a lot in software capabilities ourselves, but also, of course, partnering a lot and giving a platform to many applications. One good example is where we really advanced ourselves is we call it Smart Fusion. So we actually manage that on the metal side. We give the opportunity for our customers to build with less support, which is actually influencing cost per part, so decreasing that and making the post-processing way easier. So this is done by software, and there are also some other innovations that we're focusing on right now that will be in that scope, coming from the software side.
Sure. I always find it interesting. It starts with the design. If you have a great lightweight design, a functionally optimized design, if you want to bring it into the digital world, which is obviously a prerequisite to push the print button, it gets tough. Like, you need experts to do that.
There comes AM in play. That's you need to realize this design, this lightweight design. You need AM, and so that's a great opportunity for your companies to get in. But because you have the traditional production methods, you have restrictions, you have limits, and you don't have these limits with AM. And the other advantage of AM is that you can avoid waste cuts. So that's to mention as well. Another topic, sustainability. It's very important that you have many advantages in the field of sustainability, which is important in politics.
That's definitely right. Yeah, I was rather referring to bringing these bright designs into the digital world. If you have it in mind, you need to bring it into computer, and then you can print it. But sustainability is maybe a good topic for the last 3 minutes, because obviously sustainability has an even more prominent role in the future, and additive can contribute in various ways. What is our view on that, Martin?
Yeah, so sustainability is an important topic, and it starts with the choice of material, what kind of components you have. It goes beyond that. How is the process of making materials, of making the part, and how do you deal with the material after you used it? Yeah, so the yield rate, number of failing prints, number of recycled parts that you have, and all of these closed loops that are about to be established. So we have, at our part, we have a lot of life cycle assessment created in the meanwhile. It's a heavy investment for these certifications, but many of our materials do now have an LCA, life cycle assessment, and we have a program to replace certain components within our materials for less heavy components in terms of carbon footprint. And we offer support to our customers in the design phase. Most of our materials do have a digital twin, so that we can use these data in order to simulate the design and its impact before we actually do the printing. And therefore we can calculate the whole sustainability impact together with these partners that we have, and it's, for example, when we know the machine parameters and so on, and then we can do this all together, and we can consult our customers also in a collaborative approach in order to perceive the best possible solution.
So it's also a call for transparency when it comes to sustainability, quantifying the benefits, quantifying the real footprint. That's what you're saying, and I cannot agree more.
Yeah, and
I was wondering,
overall,
we have do we have regional differences in prioritizing sustainability, US perspective? Because in Europe, you see Ursula von der Leyen, it's a Green Deal. I'm not wearing, he's even wearing a green suit, so.
I can't really speak for, the American government's perspective on it, but I think in the conversations that I have with the government and the various industry partners, it's an underutilized sort of talking point that I think should be evangelized more. The fact that additive can be tremendously more beneficial in terms of lack of waste. It's a missed opportunity, I think, an aspect of the technology that should be pushed more. One thing I would like to see more of, though, is energy consumption on the machines is extraordinary. And anything we can do to try to reduce that, and I would love to see more dollars going into energy efficiency and innovation around that for the additive machines.
But this is a great final statement for our panel, because I'm afraid time is up. So we can have 3 core statements, I would say. So each region needs to maybe review its current plans for AM, right? So we learned that here for European and for German perspective, but also you're referring to that in the US, energy consumption of machines, putting that more into the focus. Second, we need to find our way to kind of link additive manufacturing to sustainability even more, and to leverage the potential that this so to say collaboration can bring us. And collaboration and cooperation would be the third topic we have identified here in our panel. Cooperation is key. So the title, if we would do this panel again, would probably be not battle, but something with collaboration and cooperation. So I hope you had a great time. You got some answers to your questions. But the good news is the event is not closed yet. So let's deepen our discussions in the course of this event. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for being part of this panel.